Welcome to the Demystifying Technology podcast from the MacLaurin Group.
Typically, you go through the due diligence process. What the world of private equity?
Right. Can't wait. Demystify it. And welcome back to another episode of Demystifying Technology by the MacLaurin Group. And we have Jim Headley, one of my partners, here with me today.
It's exceptional being here.
And
you can tell by the energy in my voice.
Well, I'm going to talk about something rather dear to your heart.
What's that?
BI.
Holy moly, that is dear to my heart.
That is a very sexy buzzword that's often branded about. And stands for?
Jim Headley. Sexy buzzword.
Oh.
It's business intelligence.
Oh.
Business intelligence can be, you can look at it in a couple of ways. Some would say business intelligence defines a layer of technology, a suite of products. You think of things like MicroStrategy, Tableau, Power BI more recently. These are all products that were designed to enable people who are adept at analytics to quickly and easily visualize and distribute their reporting and information. There's also the pursuit that it's more of a philosophy for business intelligence. And these are the folks who over time you might have called data analysts. Historically, you would have called data analysts. And it's just an evolutionary step. You go from data analyst to business intelligence. So you enable those people who are analytically adept to quickly and easily disseminate that information.
So let's unpick that a little bit. So let's go back to the start. What is business intelligence over just running a quick report against my database? Give me an example of what a BI is over just a simple.
So I would classify, it kind of falls into line with the question, is Excel BI, right? So it
is. Yes.
It truly it is. It can be. I would say that was an early predecessor to business intelligence, and much of what you see in the BI products today owe some of their foundation to these older products. With business intelligence, you're focused on descriptive analytics, right? And you can be somewhat descriptive if you run SQL just against a data warehouse. Pull out a number and say, I want to know the total sales for September. I can easily run a piece of SQL, hopefully, to go against my structured data environment to get that information out and provide that answer. At that point, what do you really know? I know that I have $1 million in sales in May of 2018. Is that relevant? How do I contextualize that? When you look at that information, how does that change over time? Is that better than same point last year? What are the variables that might have affected that one way or the other? Is there geographic areas where I've excelled, or is there product lines that have affected that? That's when you really start getting in the difference between just running SQL against or extracting independent variables out of a data warehouse versus business intelligence.
Okay, so you've used that magical two words there a number of times, data warehouse.
Oh, yes.
Is the data warehouse a precluder to getting to BI, or because we were flippant about the Excel. In all fairness, corporate America is running on Excel.
Yes, they are.
So it is a wonderful tool to do what it needs to do. But there comes a time where you mature above Excel to the point of where you're asking too many sophisticated questions of a bigger data set that simply Excel cannot cope with.
Yeah.
Right? So to that end, is BI data warehouse a distinct stop on the journey to BI, or is BI more than just
20 years ago, when I first started working in the dark arts of business intelligence, that the industry would have said you needed a roll app environment, which is a very specific schema, but it is it's a data warehouse schema that is highly fragmented and busted apart. And at the time, back when MicroStrategy first rolled out the door and became mainstream, they wanted that snowflake schema, but in the end, they were all looking for a structured data environment. So typically, the data warehouse was a prerequisite for the business intelligence product suite. As of late, that's become less relevant. You can now point your BI platform, you can point Tableau or Power BI or MicroStrategy to unstructured data sources. And, it kind of muddies the water a little bit as to what, historically I would have said was the realm of BI. I think it's still a foundation for business intelligence, a data warehouse, because the second you put a BI platform in place, the natural progression is it becomes the source of the truth for the entire organization. Right?
Yes, and in many respects, while one can sidestep the warehouse normalization of all the different data sources into one place, in many respects, to simplify the BI operation. So you're going against one data source as opposed to trying to merge many data sources at the BI level.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that people don't often appreciate is that the data warehouse is often the repository for the business definitions or the.
So you've mentioned the warehouse a number of times there. The warehouse, in many respects, is like a consolidation of all the different data sources into one place. You can put all your business logic and figure out what the meaning of that data is. So the BI platform is running against one source in that respect.
Yeah, and that's an important point, because that data warehouse can become the institutionalized version of the truth, right? If you need to define, what is a finished product in your production environment, and I could go in there, make determinations at various points in its creation to say, yeah, to me, this is when the product is finished, where you may say, well, no, the product exists at that point, but it's not packaged, it's not in a box, it's not on a truck. That you can embed that within that environment, within the data warehouse, and say, as an institution, this is how we define a finished product, or this is how we define a sale.
So if I'm a CEO and I'm being given my reports every month or every week, how do I know I'm getting something from a BI solution versus somebody handcrafting me out some reports against some SQL statements?
First of all, typically a BI solution can be much more interactive.
Okay.
If you were to give me an Excel spreadsheet, you may give me a pivot table where up at the top you can see the dodgy little drop down where I can, select, oh yeah, here's the.
That's an Excel ninja.
True that. No, but within the BI, you'll typically find it's easy to click into and explore beyond just the visualization that's presented to you.
This is a good differentiator, the ability to effectively interact with the data in real time.
Correct.
So is that including like drilling down into a specific number to see where that number was derived from?
Absolutely. You can drill across, right? You drill down is to say, you think of a hierarchy. You think month, week, day, hour, minute, second. Drill across would be time dimension, geography dimension, product dimension, all the way across. That now you're not limited to just what has been provided to you in the basic form of that report, as long as the developer, as long as the analyst has included those different variables that they would expect that you would like to dice and slice the data against, has provided that within that environment. Fascinating.
So who typically within an organization would be looking at this and sort of interacting with that
That's
data?
An excellent question.
That's what I'm here for.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not eye candy?
As hard as that is to believe.
It runs the gambit, right? So much of the justification that a CFO would put on the rather large outlay of money to buy this thing would be reporting for the executive suite. You look at your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and you're going to sell that to the executives, saying, now you can have this the second you walk in the door every day. It's sitting right there for you. It'll be there ready for you to understand how we performed the day before, and if we want, depending on the frequency with which we update the data, it could be there hourly. But as it continues to evolve, you'll realize, you're not only are you looking at these descriptive elements to understand how are we performing, but you can also begin to use it for exception-based evaluation, where maybe you're looking for a specific event to happen every single day relative to a transaction or product development. And if it doesn't, the absence of that event would trigger an alert, which could be reporting, right?
Right. Okay.
And these products are advanced enough now; they're going to reach out to your mobile devices. They're going to reach out via email. And you're not going to miss the alert that says.
So a good BI tool is not just a pretty dashboard. It's a living, breathing thing that's sitting above your data, continually looking for whatever it is you've set up to look for.
That is exactly right. So I would say many people would say it defines the what has happened. The continued evolution of data analytics would be, or what's going to happen next. And that's when you get into that data science realm, which to me is a whole nother
topic
podcast.
Of discussion. Absolutely. So that's the executives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the executive or the exception reporting and basically continually monitoring stuff. What about clients? Is this something you would expose to clients in a limited way?
You absolutely would. The beauty of a lot of these platforms today is that they provide a reporting portal as a part of their product. Sometimes it costs a little extra. It really depends on who you're working with, and they can be cloud or terrestrial based. It really depends on the product you're working with. Yes, because
we should coin that from now on. I like that terrestrial based computing.
Some of us are well grounded, feet firmly on the ground. No, so product will often have built into it the ability to disseminate that information, and not only can you control the mechanism for distribution, but who sees what, right? You can set up these different levels of accessibility. Maybe if you're working with an organization, you'll want the CEO to have one set of reporting of your client base. You want, if you're supporting a sales team, a sales organization, maybe you want that sales team to have a completely different set of reports. And then the better platforms will actually give you the opportunity and the ability to look at reporting metadata. How do the users interact and engage with this reporting, right? If I give them the ability to drill down, drill across, or apply filters, are they doing that, number one? And number two, what types of things are they drilling down to see, and how are they filtering the data? Because then that better informs what I should have developed in the first place. If they rarely use the reporting in its standard state, then maybe I've missed the boat on the requirements.
Got it. Okay. So you've alluded so far, and simply because of the types of big systems that you've been involved in, you've had to go for the gorillas of the space. But you've also got experience in some of the smaller players in the BI platform that doesn't necessarily come with the huge ticket prices that they come with. So we're talking about the open source world here. What can you advise our listeners to there?
Yeah, and if sticker shock is a big concern, it's important to keep in mind that even some of these larger, very expensive platforms have free versions of their software that anyone can access. Tableau has it, MicroStrategy has it, Power BI has it, but it's very limited in what you can do. You'll get a lot of the same functionality, but when it comes time to distribute that and share that visualization out, that's where you realize you now have to make a substantial investment.
Got it.
When you speak to open source, you look at things like JasperSoft. These products traditionally that more recently have hit the market. They all have their limitations, just as any of the pay-for-play products do. It's going to put more of a burden on the organization to fill in the gaps around that and to fill in, how am I going to distribute this reporting? How are people going to access it? But it can be a wonderful alternative. It's just you're going to have to pay up front one way or another. You're going to be expending some energy. You're going to be expending resources to get a wholesome, full implementation of business intelligence.
And it's fair to say that the cloud providers have not been slow in coming forward in offering a BI solution. Both Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, with all their offerings, are starting to get very rich pay-as-you-go offerings here too.
I think that's the game changer right there, and that the pay-as-you-go model. I'm up front. If you work with a BI product, they're going to say, all right, let's try to understand how many people are going to interact with this report? So, or your platform. So you're going to scale it up to meet your peak demand, right? And you're going to say, okay, on average, my worst case scenario, I'm going to have 200 concurrent users pounding this environment. And you're going to pay for 200 concurrent users, and you may pay $500,000, $750,000 for that. With these cloud-based offerings now, with what you get out of AWS, it truly is, I don't have to scale it to meet my max demand. I'm going to pay for what gets used. And I think that, more than anything else, will change the how pervasive and how thoroughly adopted BI will become. It becomes a reality for much smaller organizations than it is today.
Yes, and in many respects, AWS has done that across the whole enterprise.
They really have.
Where we would have dreamed of, we couldn't afford such a big offering. Now we can. It's now down to cents per hour. So from that perspective, a CEO listening to this or a CFO listening to this should not be scared of the sticker when they're looking at evaluating the BI solution, because they can toe dip into this world.
Absolutely.
And get immersed as much as they feel comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, if the company is getting value out of the data that's coming out of that BI platform, then it sort of pays for itself. The ROI is relatively simple. But nobody wants to pay a big amount of money just to look at some pretty graphs on a page that really doesn't help inform any business decision whatsoever.
No. If someone is pursuing business intelligence because that's what all the cool CEOs are doing, then you're going to miss the boat. It's never going to meet your expectation, because defining what your requirements and what the expected outcome is critical in understanding, number one, what do I need out of when I go out there and evaluate products, and number two, how am I going to implement that? Who's going to be responsible for it? Because that's another big question, right? Where does the responsibility for that live? And in the development environment, do I put that into my IT or my engineering space, or do I leave that in the business? All of these things will seriously affect adoption, and that can be the killer for a lot of BI implementation.
And I think we can talk about that in a later episode regarding
come on, man.
The custodian of that BI.
Come on, Dad. Let me stay up a little longer.
No, we've got to go now. Jeez. Because I think it'd be interesting to sort of discuss where BIs have failed in the past, because there simply hasn't been that person driving it to the point where it becomes part of the normal workflow, versus that cool shiny toy that we've not got bored of. Or it's telling us the truth we really don't want to listen to.
Right. That one right there, that last one really scares me. Yeah. It's time to pack up your old BI sack and head on the other road.
And with that, I'd like to thank you, and we will talk again.
Excellent. Can't wait.